Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking some truly fascinating source material that asks a pretty fundamental question about how we perceive the world. Let me ask you right off the bat. Have you ever felt that there's just something missing from the way most people understand reality? Like you're only getting a tiny piece of a much larger puzzle? Well, that's exactly what we're exploring in this explainer today. A hidden reality that most of us completely miss.
Think about it. Have you ever just looked around, maybe on your daily commute or while scrolling through endless news cycles and constantly refreshing social media feeds, and sensed that what we see with our physical eyes is only a fraction of the full story? Our source material today suggests that there's a vast, unseen dimension to our existence. It proposes that if we rely solely on our physical sight, focusing only on the loud, visible distractions of modern life, we are basically flying blind. We're totally missing a massive part of what is actually happening all around us, every single day. I mean, think about the people you've met or even read about who just seem to possess this extraordinary spiritual insight. Why is it that some individuals walk through life with this unusual wisdom and unshakable sense of purpose, while the vast majority of people spend their entire lives endlessly searching and entirely overlooking the answer? It's a pretty stark contrast, right? Well, our source material points this out, suggesting that the difference really comes down to whether or not someone has discovered what it calls a hidden kingdom. So, to really understand this, we have to look at how we traditionally define a kingdom. Throughout human history, earthly kingdoms and great empires have always been built on visible, tangible things. We're talking military strength, massive wealth, advanced tech, heavily guarded borders, all that stuff. But our source contrasts this completely with what it calls the hidden kingdom. This is a totally different kind of realm entirely. It doesn't appear on any map, you literally can't point to its capital city, and yet it's described as the greatest kingdom because it governs the unseen forces behind human existence itself. Now, the real challenge here is that most of us are completely consumed by the visible world. We focus exclusively on what we can measure, weigh, and touch: our possessions, our social status, career trajectories, all those temporary achievements. And look, the source makes it clear that none of these things are inherently wrong. But because we're so hyper-focused on this visible surface layer of life, we end up completely missing the profoundly powerful invisible reality operating right behind it all. The text introduces a really powerful metaphor to explain this. Imagine you're living right above a massive, priceless treasure hidden deep beneath the floorboards of your own home. But because you don't know it's there, you spend your entire life traveling the world, exhausting yourself, working multiple jobs, just desperately searching for fulfillment somewhere else. That is exactly how many people live their lives. They are standing directly over the very thing they seek, searching everywhere except the one place it can actually be found. To make this even clearer, the source uses another brilliant analogy, and that's radio waves. Right now, exactly where you are sitting, invisible frequencies are filling the atmosphere. There's music, there are voices, massive amounts of data constantly traveling through the very air around you. But without a proper receiver, like a radio or your smartphone, you can't detect a single note of it. The transmission is active. The signals are absolutely present. But without the right equipment, they remain totally invisible to you. So the crucial point is this realization from the text. The problem is not absence. The problem is perception. This hidden kingdom operates in the exact same way as those radio waves. Its reality surrounds us completely, its influence touches every single area of our lives, and its principles are constantly at work in the background. We just lack the spiritual sensitivity, or that internal receiver we talked about, to recognize that it's broadcasting right to us. And because this hidden reality is fundamentally different from our physical world, it makes perfect sense that it operates on an entirely different set of rules. You can't navigate this unseen kingdom using the standard instruction manual for the physical world. It just doesn't work. If you want to tap into this hidden dimension, you have to shift your paradigm and understand that different kingdoms are inevitably governed by totally different laws. Our source breaks down these distinct laws really well. I mean, we all know the natural laws, right? Gravity governs motion, time governs processes, cause and effect governs physical outcomes. If you drop a coffee cup, it shatters. Simple. But in contrast, there are spiritual laws. These are the underlying rules that directly influence our deepest thoughts, drive our most critical life decisions, shape the health of our relationships, and ultimately determine our true destinies. This actually brings us to a major source of human suffering:
The text points out that people face immense, totally unnecessary frustration because they're constantly trying to solve deeply spiritual problems using purely physical solutions. They focus 100% of their energy on fixing external circumstances, the bank account, the job title, their appearance, while completely ignoring the deeper spiritual realities operating beneath the surface. It's literally like trying to fix a complex software glitch by just repeatedly smacking your computer monitor. It might make you feel better for a second, but it definitely doesn't fix the underlying code. But here is the incredibly uplifting news presented in the text. Access to this hidden kingdom is available to absolutely everyone. Think about earthly kingdoms for a second. They restrict access. You need the right passport, a specific visa, maybe the right bloodline, an exclusive club membership, or a certain level of wealth just to get past the physical gates. But this hidden kingdom, it has a truly universal invitation. Your age, your wealth, your nationality, your level of education, none of that matters here. The doors are completely wide open. However, despite this wide open invitation, the source notes something really interesting. Most people never actually enter. Why is that? Well, because entry requires 3 incredibly challenging shifts in how we operate: awareness, humility, and transformation. You can't just read about this kingdom and unlock it through mere information or, intellectual agreement. It demands a total shift in consciousness, a genuine willingness to drop our egos, and the courage to see beyond surface-level appearances. And honestly, many people resist this deeply. And this brilliantly illustrates how we completely redefine our view of power. The world generally defines power as having control over others, climbing the corporate ladder, achieving external success, and getting widespread public recognition. But kingdom power flips that entirely upside down. In the hidden kingdom, true power is actually defined as mastery over oneself. It's about profound internal transformation, the quiet, steady development of character, and choosing to invest in eternal realities rather than endlessly chasing temporary worldly rewards. When someone actually makes this shift, the result is profound. The text notes that those who live from this kingdom, rather than just passively observing the physical world, develop an unshakable peace, even in the absolute most difficult and trying circumstances. Their confidence and their emotional security are rooted in something so much deeper than whatever temporary chaos or anxiety happens to be going on in their external environment at the time. Which brings us to perhaps the most astonishing truth revealed in our source material today. This hidden, invisible dimension holds the exact, specific answers that human beings spend their entire lives endlessly chasing. It's wild to think about, but the very things we exhaust ourselves trying to find in the visible world are actually stored right here, ready and waiting in the unseen. We're talking about the big things: purpose, identity, wisdom, direction, meaning, peace, and fulfillment. The author emphasizes that these profound treasures absolutely cannot be purchased. You can't manufacture them, you definitely can't fake them, and you certainly cannot achieve them simply by accumulating more material stuff. They are only discovered through a genuine, intentional connection with a reality that is far, far greater than ourselves. What this ultimately tells us, according to the source, is that human beings were created for so much more than mere survival. We aren't just here to consume resources, go through some mundane daily routine, punch a clock, and rack up a bunch of temporary accomplishments. Think about it. We're actually meant to participate in something eternal and profound, something that totally transcends the strict, heavy limitations of the physical world we see around us every day. The real tragedy, then, isn't that this kingdom is intentionally concealed from us. Not at all. The tragedy is that we're just looking in all the wrong places. We constantly search outward, chasing shadows and distractions, when the journey to finding this kingdom actually begins by looking inward. We miss the essential, life-changing truth simply because we are way too busy being distracted by the shimmering surface of things. But hey, I want to bring this right back to your current reality right now. The source is incredibly optimistic here. It emphasizes that this hidden kingdom has never been far away. It's not locked up behind some impossible gate, and it's certainly not reserved for some mystical elite. It's waiting right now today, at this very moment, to be recognized and understood. The opportunity for discovery remains entirely possible for anyone, and I mean anyone, willing to awaken to it. Which leaves us with this final, provocative question straight from the text. Are you willing to seek it? The question isn't really whether this hidden kingdom exists, but rather if you have the willingness to look deeper. I want to leave you with that thought. What might you discover about your own purpose and your own identity if you finally choose to tune your receiver to the hidden reality that surrounds us all? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep seeking.